Hello, everyone. This is Susan Gerbic from Psychics Explained. I received an email from Matt Fraser this morning to my email that includes my name, Susan Gerbic, which is really odd that he hasn't removed me from there. He's blocked me in all social media, but he still sends me emails. And so, following the link from his blog, he has a blog that he puts out, which is very interesting. I read it, obviously. He sends it to me, so why wouldn't I? And so today I'm prepared to let's go over this blog, his newest discussion. Is there scientific evidence for psychic abilities? Which is right up my alley. So let's look and see what he has to say. All right. This is on his website. I will put the link in the description should you want to look at this further, or you can obviously just stop the video and read it as you go. I'm not going to be reading this to you completely. So here it is. It's on his website, December 20th, 2024. I have no idea why I just received it, but it just came in my email this morning. So he says here, for years, people have been rolling their eyes at the idea of psychic ability. But here's the thing, science is starting to take a really good look at this stuff, and what they're finding is pretty mind-blowing. All right. So his claim is that whoever this scientist is, have been looking into psychic abilities for a very long time. Well, that's probably very true. There are scientists out there in the world. How many millions of scientists there are out there in the world? And a few have been interested in psi ability, PSY, I believe they call it. And and lots of people look into all kinds of things. Not only are scientists who believe in paranormal abilities looking into these topics, but people who don't believe in psi abilities are looking into this, whatever this is, because we find it fascinating why people believe things. How is our mind, how people are different and looking at um, the phenomena or seeing meaning in things. That part is fascinating. And it's fascinating to me. I'm not a scientist and I still find it fascinating. Okay. So going back over to the email he sent me. Yeah, he sent it to me personally, right? Well, he did. So first off, there's this thing called the Stargate program. It's not a sci-fi movie. It was a government project that went on for 20 years. They spent a whopping 20 million looking into remote viewing, the ability to mentally see things that are far away. Okay. It's not just government stuff. Regular scientists at big name universities are getting on this too. There was a professor at Cornell, Daryl Bim, who did a bunch of experiments that suggested we might all have a bit of psychic power. Okay. Now, Stargate program. I'm going to go to Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia. I think it's a wonderful place to be able to get an overview of a subject. So let's look at Wikipedia. Now, keep in mind, you should always look at the citations at the bottom of the article to follow if you want more information about a topic, or you can obviously Google it. But when you are trying to get information on a subject that especially is opinionated or paranormal, watch the citations to make sure that they're reputable. Don't just take whatever's on the internet as being factual. There's no factual. So Wikipedia has certain standards. So let's look at the Wikipedia article. I'm not going to again read it to you or anything like that. So let's just take a quick look at this and see what we see about the Stargate program. Okay, the first thing I see is that this is a paranormal topic. It's in a series of the paranormal, which should make like the hair on the back of your neck go up a little bit. Obviously, there is something to this that makes it paranormal and not necessarily a government program. So let's see, was it a legit government program? It was a secret U.S. Army established 1977 in Maryland by the DIA and a contractor, SRI International, to investigate the potential for psychic phenomena in military and domestic intelligence applications. This project and its precursors and sister projects went by different various names. Okay. They were all consolidated and rechristened as the Stargate Project. See, Stargate Project. It primarily involved remote viewing, the ability to psychically see events, sites, or information from a great distance. It was overseen until 1987 by this guy who was a psychic headhunter to this other guy. It had 15 to 20 individuals and run out of an old linky wooden barracks. It was terminated and declassified in 1995 after a CIA report concluded it was never useful in any intelligent operation. Information provided by the program was vague and included irreverent and an erroneous data, and there were suspicions of inner judge reliability. In other words, they weren't double-blinded, and um, the information they gathered wasn't useful and possibly was dirty. It was not protected. If you want to look, and this is true, if you want to look at the video or the movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats, you will understand what is going on. I believe it included LSD and all kinds of other stuff. So, okay, this is where it's mentioned. If we go down here, it has a lot of information about it, and you can follow all this if you're interested. Hal Puthoff, Russell Targ, some other people that were involved. Just because they have major general in front of their name or they have scientist or doctorate does not mean that they are probably the best judges of this kind of stuff. So you have to really take that for what it is. So it was a real program, $20 million spent on it, but in the giant scheme of things, $20 million over a period of time is like finding for the government, for the intelligence community and the government is like finding change in the seat cushions of your couch. So 20 million spent, 20 million wasted. It gave these people a platform. Um, I believe a lot of these people are still doing the pseudoscience, sciencey kind of stuff. You can read about it yourself, find more. Okay, let's talk about Daryl Bim. Now, Daryl Bim has come up in my world many, many times. I'm aware of him and the research he's done. He is a legit. I believe he does have a PhD in psychology, social psychiatry, sociologist. Nope, social psychologist, which is probably what I would have done, the field I would have gone into if I had been in a situation to have been able to continue school or been mentored or knowing what I know now, I think it'd be one of the areas I would find most fascinating. All right, here's Daryl Bim, and this is how you spell his name, which is not the typical way. If you're trying to Google him, I would think it would Beam or two R's in Daryl, but this is it, Daryl Bem, should you want to know more. Okay, he's a social psychologist. He's a professor at Cornell University, so that's all true. He probably is a reputable scientist of sorts, keeping in mind that there are lots of social psychologists. There are lots of people who are professors, even at Cornell University. It does not mean that he is special. And the one person out there who has these degrees and has is a professor emeritus at this university should not give special weight to this one person, okay? He's originator of the self-perception theory of attitude formation and change. I have no idea what that is, but I'm sure it explains it in this article. He's researched psi phenomena, group decision making, handwriting analysis, sexual orientation, and personality theory and assessment. Okay, so that's an awful lot of expertise for this guy. So it talks about his early life, his career, and then we go down here. So he's got all kinds of things he's done. The Gainesville experiment, which is something you could look at if you want. He defended the Gainesville experience as evidence of ESP, and you can read more about that. You can even look, here's another psychologist, Susan Blackmore, who I actually personally know, and she talks about how her opinion of the Gainesville experiments. Right. So then he did this Feeling the Future controversy, which was in 2011, and it offered statistical evidence for ESP or psi. So it challenged modern scientific conceptions about the nature of time, and you can read about this. And it looks like it had a meta-analysis of 90 trials in 33 labs and 14 nations, and so on. So then you have, it takes time, but usually people who are in the world of science, it's about reputability. So you have to be, somebody could write a paper, hope maybe get it published somewhere. Sometimes they don't. And we don't hear about those that don't get published. So we don't know when things fail. We only hear about things that are in the news or who have been published. So the way science works, and people listening to this probably already understand this, but let me just be clear. Somebody makes a claim, they're supposed to back it up. So they're supposed to show you the evidence, the methodology, how they went about putting together the study, how many people or objects were involved, and they have a methodology to explain. And then other scientists or laboratories elsewhere take that information and they try to put it to using the same standards that the first researchers did is try to replicate the results. And that isn't part of the scientific method. If it is not able to be replicated, then, and usually multiple places will try to do this, then it pretty much fails. And then other scientists write about how they tried to replicate it, or maybe they just say it wasn't replicable. We couldn't get it to work. The only way we could do this is if we fudged this or did that, or, things that weren't reputable. Um, and so that's how science works, is that we move forward in our not body of knowledge by people proposing things, testing things, trying out things, and keeping detailed records of how they did it and allowing other scientists or other groups to be able to look at your results and how you put it together and see if they can replicate it. All right, that's how science works. All right, so going back to this, now people tried to replicate it or looked at Daryl's Bim's research, and they had a lot of problems with it. And you can see here on this article, Feeling the Future Controversy, they talk about different people who tried to research it or tried to get into it. Like here's psychologist James Alcott, who is a friend of mine. So let's be clear. He evaluated nine experiments, Bim's nine experiments, and he found metaphorical dirty test tubes or serious methodological flaws, such as changing the procedures partway through the experiments and combining results of tests with different chances of significance. It is unknown how many tests were actually performed, nor is there an explanation of how it was determined that participants had settled down, in quotes, after seeing erotic images. Ooh, erotic images. This must be interesting. Alcock concludes that just about everything that could be done wrong in the experiment occurred here. So it looks like they had some back and forth. Alcott and Bim had some kind of back and forth in the Skeptical Inquirer, and there are citations to that, and you can probably read it. So Chris French, who's also another friend of mine, Richard Wiseman, who's also a friend of mine, and Stuart Ritchie, who I don't know, they tried to replicate it and they found no evidence of precognition. Several failed attempts by the authors to publish the replication attempted highlighted difficulties in publishing replications, attracting media attention over concerns of publication bias. That's interesting. Oh, that's a whole another ball of wax, right? They tried to publish their replications, and then the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology and these others rejected the paper on the grounds that it was a replication, which is what we're supposed to be trying to do, is replicate it. And we have to be able to do it in public so that the public, there's like a body of that you can follow, through and see who is doing what. And with what standards, and so on. Um, a fourth journal, the British Journal of Psychology, refused the paper after reservations from one referee, which later confirmed to be Bim himself, who might have a conflict of interest. Okay, so what that means is when they are giving information to, okay, when you're trying to get a scientific journal published, they have to go through a referee process. So in other words, you write it all up, you submit it to a journal. The journal has people who read and look at your research to see if you, who are writing the article, has done a good job. So those are referees, and they are usually made up of a body of people who are experts in that field, who possibly may be fellows or whatever, and they evaluate to see that you are doing good research. And if if the process, if the standards of your replication that you're writing for this journal are not at a high enough level, then they refuse it. And apparently, um, one of the people who was reviewing was Daryl Bim, and he said, "No, this is not good. You can't publish it." It's pretty interesting. Well, that says a lot. So, boy, this gets into a lot. Thank you, Matt Fraser, for bringing this to my attention. I'd heard of this, but I hadn't looked into this in a while. Richard Weissman set up a register to keep track of other replicating efforts to avoid problems with publication bias and planned to conduct a meta-analysis. Okay, so that's an aside. Two independent articles found that the number of rejections of the null hypothesis reported by BEM is abnormally high given the proprieties of experiments and reported effect sizes. Okay, blah, blah, blah. All right. I don't think that has anything to do with this at the moment. You can read this yourself. So it looks like it stirred up something with the journals and how they weren't publishing. So we go down here to 2023, a large-scale pre-registered replication in 23, which included BIM and other ESP proponents in the design, found no evidence for precognition. And that goes to citation 52, which is this article down here. Let's see if it opens. Royal Society of Open Science. So if you want to read that, you can read that. It looks like it's a kind of dense thing that scientists would like to understand. So here's the problem. The information is out there about the things that Matt Fraser is saying, but people aren't going to look past a Wikipedia page on it and read the abstracts from some journal to understand. I have not got the background to do that. So I rely on secondary sources that are notable and experts to understand. And even still, most people won't even go that far. They won't even go beyond and even reading the Wikipedia page. They're going to just see that Matt Fraser has said, scientists say, scientists look into, scientists have done, scientists are interested. And that's as far as most people are going to get. There is a huge, long history of psi research in modern days, in my lifetime. And it's out there for people to read and understand beyond a Wikipedia page, which should be a good place to go to first to kind of get an overview of things. And then if you're very interested, like I say, you do further research and more reading and watching of videos or listening to people explaining it. And then you can go farther and farther into it. But let's get to the very bottom of this, right? Scientists have looked into this. And yes, it is fascinating and interesting. I find it fascinating and interesting. But the end results are we're we're at 1977 from the Stargate program. 1977. And Matt Fraser is on stage selling people his little stories he's spinning. Look at my channel, look at my playlist, and you can see that it's a bunch of stories, yarns, and sold to people who are in vulnerable situations who have not done research on this because probably because they're in grief and because most of the people who are attending a Matt Fraser show or watching his videos online have not are not interested in the science. They just see what is in front of them and they are not interested or able to um, take it any further than what he's saying in his little blog that he's put out. They're just going with what it says because it satisfies their desire to believe that he is able to communicate with the dead, which he cannot. He is not psychic. And I have multiple articles and videos showing what he's doing and how he's doing it, and how he's manipulating these grieving people. The bottom line is always the same with me. If Matt Fraser or any psychic out there could do what they say they can do, there are two things going on. Either they are not psychic and not able to solve crimes, missing people, and so on, or they're evil, horrible human beings who have the ability but still refuse to solve crimes, find missing persons, and so on. When this website, and I will share this, when this website is blank and every single person on here is gone because all of these children are gone, they've been found, all crimes have been identified, and we are completely clear of this. When that is done, then it is and done by people like Matt Fraser who say they can contact the dead and they can and have conversations with them in seconds, because I've watched the videos, then maybe we will have a conversation about is it possible to communicate with the dead? Is remote viewing possible? And so on. But in the meantime, look at this. In the meantime, these are people missing, years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And there are grieving people who want to have information about these people. Find these people. Learn what happened to them. Who is responsible? Until we have that cleared up, and there are probably thousands on this website and other websites, until that is done, and we no longer have any need for missing person posters, websites like Missing and Exploited Children, or all the other websites out there that focus on helping people's grieving families have some sort of resolution or finding these people. Until then, I think it's very clear that Matt Fraser and all the other psychics out there have no ability, or the only ability they have is to take money out of pockets of grieving, vulnerable people who are usually women. And I have a problem with that. And I don't think we should lose sight of that. The last thing I want to say is that if you look at Matt Fraser's blog, this is very typical of all of his. You can see at the very bottom that they turn off the comments. I don't know why. He puts out the blog. They turn off the comments after a few days. And they receive very few comments, usually from people who are desperate. Like this one, I dream constantly of my immediate family, all who have passed, especially my sister Katie, at least 2 or 3 times a week since 1998. I wish I could connect more strongly for her to communicate with her, right? So these are grieving, vulnerable people. And why do they turn off the comments? Because I don't know. Maybe somebody doesn't want to have to deal with, going through the comments and cleaning them out of people who are trying to post links or whatever, or because Matt Fraser really doesn't care about grieving people. He doesn't want to help these people out. He really doesn't. If he did, he could, and he isn't. Going back to the missingkids.org website, when he's cleaned that off, when he's gone through and solved all these mysteries, have found these people, then let's talk.